tell them. We are ready to party.
They're classy too, man. I could wear this on a date.
People who are most successful are the ones who don't just give up.
We have officially partnered up with Albemarle Paper Supply. Albemarle Paper Supply services paper products within the cities of Charlotte, Concord, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, Salisbury, Morrisville, and smaller cities in between. From fiber, plastic, and foam bowls, paper towels, tissues, napkins, takeout containers, gloves, to janitorial supplies, and much, much more, Albemarle Paper is dedicated to bring you the paper goods you need. Customers can pick up products directly at Albemarle Paper's warehouse located at 735 Henson Street in Albemarle, North Carolina, or products can be delivered to you at your business doorstep. Today's live is also brought to you by CL Driving School. CL Driving School is a truck driving school located in Indian Trail, offering programs for both commercial Class A and Class B licenses. With your choice between automatic and manual transmission, their classes consist of small group trainings with one instructor per truck. Training is available on weekdays, weekends, and evenings. Not only do you receive classes, but opportunities for sponsorship programs, recruiter visits, and job placement assistance also occurs. CL Driving School is also trilingual with classes offered in English, Spanish, and Arabic. Register for classes today by calling 704-821-1111. Hello and welcome to another episode of the MLS Corner, the best corner in all of MLS. Even though things seem gloomy today, kind of like Saturday with the rain, listen, hopefully there's some sunshine coming through. Jorge Gonzalez, you guys know me, Top Bin 90, and we've got a stellar, spectacular, jam-packed show for you tonight. We've got my man, Brian. Brian, how are you today, my man?
Hey, y'all. I'm doing awesome today. I've got my Dortmund kit on. It's the start of a new European season. We kicked it off with a Deutsche Pokal win last weekend, 3-0. Can y'all?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But yeah. So I'm just pumped. New season in European football. And pumped to see Charlotte hopefully play this Wednesday. Get the game in.
And also, we have a MLS. I guess you're an MLS corner veteran now, bro, because you've been on the show multiple times now. We got my man Vaughn. Vaughn, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm just here to talk about Liverpool with you, Jorge. That's all that this is.
Let's go. We never walk alone. Right, Lee?
I still can't hear y'all.
Lee!
All I want to say is, maybe I'm going to see if I can do some lip service here, but yes, I agree. Liverpool are shit.
Yeah. Set him up for the dog.
That was pretty good. Lee, how are you today, man? Are you rained out?
Man, apparently I'm having technical difficulties.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. We can't hear you anymore.
That's karma.
At least he got his punch in.
For real. Say something again? Yeah, we can't hear you.
You look good, though.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. Whatever you're saying is fantastic.
We might have to trade you for Roscoe tonight. What's up? Okay. Well, we'll let Lee figure out his technical difficulties.
We can give him a minute to talk about Tottenham. This is your chance.
There you go. Yeah. Talk to us about it. Lee. Say something if you think Tottenham's a great team. Well, there you have it, folks.
Yeah.
He became a through and through Charlotte fan and left his Spurs battles. So nice. Awesome. I guess first we'll talk about this weekend, man. I mean, there's not much that we can mention outside of that 3-hour delay that Charlotte FC had. First of all, I want to say shout out to everybody that stayed at that stadium. I mean, 3 hours is no joke.
It was a rough one, man.
Yeah, talk to us about that experience, Lee.
Shoot, I mean, I mean, other than having to keep buying beers because we kept running out of them, right? And then waters to stay hydrated. It was pretty rough. And everybody started complaining about it, like blaming it as if it was a team thing, right? I mean, the problem is protocol is like 8 or 10 miles away. If there's lightning or thunder, right, they have to kind of call it. And so they did. And then, MLS, I guess, makes the final call if the game's going to go on or not, right? So, I think they should have told us earlier on that the tickets were still good if you left the stadium. That would probably be my only gripe. But, overall, we just kind of hung out in the concourse and just sang and hung out and ate and drink and all that good stuff.
I mean, it's pretty difficult for the club to say that, right, if it doesn't get rescheduled.
Yeah, I mean,
what if they would have went out and played the whole thing?
Yeah, I think that's.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that's just something they're gonna have to really work out probably after this. I mean, I know it's been like week to week, kind of like every time they've had a home game of late, but I think that's probably something because this is gonna keep happening season after season in the summer months. I mean, maybe not this often because this is a pretty substantial frequency right now, but I mean, ideally maybe they come up with kind of like a better logistical plan down the road next season. But they kind of probably have. I would imagine they've gotten quite caught off guard.
Charlotte in the summer though, right?
Yeah. I literally don't remember the last time an MLS game was postponed. Like, I've been thinking about it. I literally cannot remember a time.
Yeah.
It was an absurd circumstance.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I stayed around. I watched the first 16 minutes, whatever. When they called it, I was like, that's it, man. I'm done. I just left.
I feel you. I mean, most people were done, man.
Man, I was wore out. I mean, you got to think, right? We played soccer that morning. And that was something in itself. And then, standing out there at the tailgate all day, man, and just being in that sun, dude, it was pretty brutal, man. It's a long day. And then you could tell, the folks with kids and stuff, they're all kind of getting cranky and that kind of thing too. So yeah, it was a long day.
For sure. Vaughn, my man, if I would have told you at the beginning of the season that halfway or a little halfway through the season, you would see a midfield trio of Quinn McNeil, Brant Veronica, and Ben Bender, what would you have told me?
I said we were in a bit of trouble. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a midfield trio that is going to be very competitive in MLS. But I would say that we've hung in there. But yeah, the 17 minutes we saw of that midfield, it wasn't terrible. Could have been worse. So we didn't concede. But yeah, I think we're going to need to try to address that.
100%. And I mean, something interesting that somebody else pointed out while we were watching the game is Ben Bender was man marking Nagby, which I thought was very, very interesting. So those holes, we didn't see much, but I feel like we saw some interesting things within that first 16 minutes of that game. Yeah. Lee, what were you gonna say?
I just said like the first 16 minutes of the game, we looked like we were in it, man. We're actually kind of taking it to them. So, hopefully we can kind of start back with that sort of energy on, I believe it's October 5th is when the game got rescheduled for. So, and if you check your tickets on your app, you should see that they're in there too. So
I'd like to talk about gains actually in what was happening there. I think one of the really, really positive things that we saw in those first 15 minutes was some established patterns of play. We saw several times Gaines being able to run into space and balls being played into that space over the top of Pedro Santos. Obviously, Columbus was playing with a really, really high line. They were pushing a lot of numbers forward, and we had to absorb a lot of that in the first 3 to 5 minutes. But we eventually were taking advantage of that. And I think that was something that I was really, really happy to see, was that space that Pedro Santos was vacating, we were playing right into that space and doing it consistently over and over and over again. And Gaines, to his credit, also looked more dangerous than he has at other times in the season in trying to make that a meaningful attack.
But
so that was a good thing.
Still, though, man, like he had the space, he had the pace, he just couldn't cross the damn ball to save his life, man.
Practice makes perfect. If he's got to do it 20 times to get it once, you know what?
Jeez, it was hard to watch.
If that
I
was
will-
the goal, right? So
I will give him credit though. I feel like out of many guys on the team, for like how often his crosses don't come off and his plays don't come off when he finds himself in good positions, he's got like a goldfish memory. Like he just moves right on to the next play and goes it again. You know, like he never quits, and I do appreciate that because, like, I mean, Swiderski, when he gets kind of caught up in it, a lot of other players like seem to really feel the heat a little bit, and Gaines just goes and goes and goes, and it's pretty nonstop. And so I do definitely appreciate it. And so, like, maybe at some point, if he can get that final touch in there, like, I mean, he really could be pretty special, but it's just.
I don't think there's any player that wants goldfish memory on their scouting report. I tell you.
I stole that from Ted Lasso. I should
I
probably
love it.
call that out before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
yeah, awesome. And just sticking to that midfield point, I mean, today we saw a very telling press conference from Christian Latanzio where he was asked why Sergio Ruiz was left out of the squad, and he did his almost to the T of what he said about Titi Ortiz. He said, "I'm letting the club handle it. You know that there's things going on behind the scenes," and he said that Sergio's been very professional in all of this, aka all of this sounding to me like, you know, deuces to Sergio Ruiz, which to me it kind of hurts a little bit because you know what? I feel like we have like, I don't know, since we've been following the team since I feel like forever, for like 10 years now, you know, like Sergio was the guy that we saw, you know, the guy at Las Palmas, player who did really well, who came here with, you know, expectations, very first Charlotte FC signing, a very likable player as well. You know, I've had some conversations with Sergio, and I like him as a person as well, man. And so to me, it's very true. Like he's kind of been inconsistent with us, but is it the right move to let him go?
Depends on the offer. I mean, I think that there was interest in him before the season started, right? I think there were some clubs in Spain that were already angling to try and keep him in Spain. So the club has to listen to those, right? Like you have to evaluate and see where things are at. And the club right now is having to make decisions not only for the end of this year, but also future seasons. This is something that I was looking at that is really important, is that between guys like Titi and Alan Franco, potentially Sergio, and other guys that, you know, Aful is on the roster and he's up for potential free agency. These are guys that if they all exit, we're going to be opening up a significant amount of money on the salary cap. Like I'm talking upwards of $1.5 to $1.8 million of cap space on a $5 million cap. That's a lot. And so when you look at some of the positions that players have locked down as starters, that means that we can really go after some key targets either at the end of this window or in the off-season winter window to really start taking the roster to another level. And I think that's intentional by the team. So in Sergio's case, you know, he's not an out-and-out starter. So if there are offers coming in, you have to listen to it. And if it's worth it, if you can do something that benefits us, but also benefits Sergio and puts him into a good spot, you got to hear it out.
For sure. I mean, I think it also just puts us in a more competitive position because I mean, if there's a decent transfer offer, I mean, they'll get a decent amount of GAM back for that too, right? And that kind of puts, I mean, that's reasons why teams like Dallas, Union, a lot of these other bigger clubs in MLS that have like well-established academies and just getting transfers out year after year is they can compete with extra GAM that they're allocating from all these transfers. And so being able to have an opportunity to earn some of that back to make us more competitive in terms of just how we can compete on the transfer market is pivotal. Yeah. So I think
speaking of that, I mean that makes 3 departures for Charlotte FC. I mean, We can include Miguel Angel Ramirez, which was the coach, left the club. And then we've seen Alan Franco leave now. We've seen Titi Ortiz and potentially Sergio Ruiz at the point of this show. He still hasn't left yet. All the indications is that he's pretty much gone from conversations I've had as well. But what do we make of this? I mean, that's 3 midfielders. How much of an impact are these 3 signings leaving the club?
I'd say for this year, I mean, it leaves a pretty gaping hole in the amount of just midfield depth we have. But long term, these guys were probably all options to leave anyway. Like Franco and Ortiz were on a loan, so they were gonna be likely either just a filler option for the season unless something really happened well in the project, right? And then I think Sergio's the one little bit of a stronger case because I think he probably would have filled at least a depth role for probably a significant amount of time if they had wanted to go that route with him. But I mean, it just means they're gonna have to be active in the midfield, right? Because they're still those are spots that are now open, and they definitely could use some more. Because once you have those, if Sergio does leave, we're down to 5 midfielders that's in the center mid, and that's probably not enough depth. I mean, we've already sort of seen the legs kind of fall off at times, especially in the last 2 games. So having the depth is also necessary, especially for the style of play that they want to play with higher pressing, lots of movement in the midfield. So I think that's the one long term. I mean, midfield signings have to be made.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been pretty telling, and I'll let you talk on this as well, Vaughn. This season in terms of what we're really missing, or at least what Latanzio thinks we're missing, right? And the club. If you see, we're seeing Yazviak playing center attacking mid. We're seeing Anton Walks fill in as a right back when we have, in my opinion, capable right backs.
I think that was tactical, personally. The Anton Walks at right back.
Really, give us your reasoning behind that. I'm curious now.
I think that there was a guy named Lorenzo Insigne on the pitch for that game, and I think Latanzio showed a lot of respect trying to throw as strong of a defender and a physical body out wide as he could. I think the intent was to put his, on paper, 3 strongest center backs all on the pitch at the same time in Walks, Corujo, and Fuchs. I think that was the game plan there, was they're going to have to deal with Insigne. They're going to have to deal with Bernadeschi, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, definitely didn't work out. This is a good point too. Salary also goes up next year. We'll see, especially with the new Apple deal. We'll see how that's incorporated in as well.
The CBA deals already happened, so we know how much the salary. I think it's Vaughn, it's 200,000 or 300,000, right? It's not a huge jump next year.
Yeah, it goes up to I don't quote me on this. I think it's 5.2 next year. I should know off the top of my head, but yeah, it's.
Come on, bro. Why do I bring you on here if you don't know this stuff?
Sorry, it's 5.21 million. I was off by $10,000. My apologies.
Hey, that 10K might have been able to make Yazviak be bought down this summer. So,
but listen, on the bright side, I had a conversation this morning, and it looks like there's negotiations for a player, and so be on the lookout. I think these next 48 hours there'll be some interesting things happening within the club. You guys know how I like to tease y'all. The club definitely likes to tease me as well. So just be on the lookout. We're definitely kind of looking out and hearing of some things that are going on. So don't lose hope that we're not bringing in no player.
Can I speak to one of the comments in the chat? There's a Danny Brams. Danny Brams, I see you. There's a message. Saying, I get what y'all are saying about big contracts leaving, being good, but I mean, come on, we have Tepper money, should be no issue. There's a couple things that are going on here. First of all, the salary cap that's fixed, that's for the first 20 players on the roster. One thing that we've got going on is that we've got a roster that has been full all season. We've had 30 rostered players for most of the season. That's a completely full roster. Not every MLS team does that. There are many teams that never spend on their DP spots. They don't spend on U22. They don't spend on transfers. And there are dollars that have gone out in transfer fees and different things that you look at the salary cap and the salaries for the players. There were some caveats that we talked about when those salary figures were released by the MLSPA. But there are other dollars that are going towards roster spend that aren't shown up in the MLSPA figures.
Vaughn, you're kind of breaking up. Yo.
That $5 million, they're close. Oh, you still hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Am I back?
Now you're back.
All right. I don't know what that was. But I was saying Swiderski's $5 million transfer fee. There are more than half of the MLS clubs where that would be a top 3 transfer in the history of their clubs. I think that there's going to be more transfer fees in our history. Yes, we were linked to Ramsdale. Yes, there were other different names that have come around. I think we are legitimately in on some of those names. I think that the intent over time is going to be to bring in some real quality talent from top European leagues. So to me, the narrative that the club's not spending, please go back and listen to the podcast episode that Andre Shinyashiki was just talking about. The hot quote in there was about him wanting his salary requirements to be met. But if you look and listen to the beginning of that interview, Shinyashiki was actually talking about how much better Charlotte is than where he came from in Colorado in regards to spend, not only on on-field stuff, but off-field stuff. There's significant investment happening that I don't think people are really taking note of.
I mean, I think the Jose Tavares is probably, like, if you want a really good recent example, the Jose Tavares. I mean, if you look at his resume, it's incredible. It's absolutely outrageous that we landed a guy. I mean, he could probably be a senior coach down the senior team coach, if not almost now, right? I mean, a Premier League team was looking at him. Like, so the fact that he's willing to come and like help develop our academy is a pretty incredible move. And I super hyped about seeing what Brian Romero develops and how he becomes develops as a player specifically, just because what he's done with some of the center midfielders there at Porto was fantastic. And I think that was my main point there. But then also just looking at the Colorado example is a perfect example, right? Because literally look at what they invested in to get Shinyashiki, and then look what Colorado turned around and did. They spent a ton more GAM to get a guy who's producing at a fifth of what Shinyashiki ended up doing for us. So I mean, there's definitely teams that are doing way worse with their bucks.
Well, and Colorado has to trade away all of their GAM to acquire talent from inside the league because no free agents want to sign there, and no DPs or anyone else wants to sign there. The only way they can get them there is if they trade for a player and force their hand.
Why is that? Is that just because of poor management? And
yeah, they're owned by Stan Kroenke. I mean, some of it is business model. Some of it is their approach. They've gone years and years with zero DPs. But it's not a market that people are drawn to.
Yeah.
It's just not. And there's many reasons for that. So yeah.
Nice. All right. I want to talk a little bit about this as well. Cause last week, this has probably been our most high profile link, right, to any player. Aaron Ramsey, former Arsenal guy, former Juventus guy, spent some time at Rangers. Do you guys think we were genuinely in the mix for Ramsey, or did we get used as a bargaining chip to leverage his negotiations with Nice? Who wants to start on this one? I got some thoughts, but go ahead, Brian.
So, I think first off, he was on the discovery list, right? So that means they had at least put pen to paper in terms of a documentation of showing hey, he's on our list of a potential move. Maybe not now, maybe at some point he's on their minds, right? They have to actually decide that he takes up one of those spots, and it's a limited amount of spots. They get 7 discovery. I think they get 7 spots. So they decided to intentionally pick him into that one of those spots. So I think right there's intent, even if there wasn't an offer. But then I think Tom I mean, I trust a lot of what Tom Boger's reporting. I mean, he's been super legit for several years now, and so once he took the Daily Mail, that was when I started to really believe in what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, the way I read the Daily Mail article was it told all the information that was necessary for any club in the world to know what Charlotte was offering.
Yeah.
It said 2 years, and it said that it was the most expensive contract. Well, everybody and their mother and every agent in the world can go look up Swiderski's contract. It's on the MLSPA figures, and everybody knows he's making $2.2 million. So any team that was interested in Ramsey, whether it was Nice or anyone else, knew, hey, he's about to go to Charlotte. Unless you come at us with an offer that is more than 2 years and more than $2.2 million. Want to talk? Like, to me, that was a play where it was forcing somebody else to step up. It could have been to try and escalate Charlotte, but no, it was telling the Charlotte figures. So I believe that there was a 2-year offer. I do believe that it was more than $2.2 million. And, we could have even had the highest bid. We don't know that. We may never know that. But I think it's probably pretty likely that we were competitive in that offer because, I mean, they could have just dismissed it and not mentioned it at all.
The only reason I didn't really think anything was going to come out just because it was the Daily Mail. I mean, it's almost like the paper over there definitely for sure is one of those ones that kind of just makes up stuff and hope it sticks, right? I mean, it's not like a Sky Sports for sure over there. And I mean, as Austin says, once a gunner, always a runner. So come on, he's person.
Yeah, well, like Brian said, it became more legitimate when Tom Bogert spoke on it, right? Because you still had that, like, okay, Daily Mail, they're not really known for like being credible. But my understanding from the situation is there was genuine interest for Ramsey to come to Charlotte, but there was other factors that I don't think involved Charlotte FC made it happen for him to come here. So, but in my opinion, that shows intent from the club, right? That's one thing I like to see, right? Okay, like we're actually getting linked with people that I think are good players coming here, not always like, okay, who are we signing? And then us kind of doing research and then like, okay, this could be a good player for us, right?
Yeah.
So
well, and
I have a problem with that though, because it's like I don't want to be that club that's like, oh, we're in and we almost got this player, and this player.
Right. I get that, but also, man, you're not gonna tell me that people don't get excited when you hear a name like Aaron Ramsey being linked to Charlotte.
I mean, not all of us, but yeah, I mean, I could see some.
I stoked.
I would have had to low key cheer for it, but no. My point is like we've been nearly in and gotten a few players, right? I mean, obviously there's been a few that just were completely out of hand.
You can absolutely in my opinion, tear the clubs to shreds if at the end of this window they don't sign anybody, right? Because that's a failed window that they had when you have an opportunity to make playoffs, right? The only way they kind of escape that is if they bring in a Cam or they bring in, the players that they need, or at the end of the season they make playoffs with the current squad that they have, right? In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, because eventually the excuses do. I mean, you run right. Otherwise, you become a team that just constantly is making excuse after excuse. You're like, hey, we were looking for these guys. We're trying to bring some in, and it just never ends up happening. So eventually, I mean, you have to end up getting some results in terms of showing that like you can back up the talk, back up the game plan, and make some of those things happen.
We got 48 hours. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. But we're going to hit. Like, there's going to be windows we hit. There's going to be windows we miss. Like, I think that's the other thing that's going to happen. Like, we're an expansion team, right? Like, right now, we're new. For some players, they're interested in that. For some players, they're not, right? Like, some players are doing legacy building. Some are chasing a final contract. Some are looking to come to America. Some have no interest in being in America, right? Like, there's a lot at play here that it's not easy to sign a player. Like, it's just not. I think that's part of it too, is I think we're really oversimplifying the whole process.
But I mean, when you see other clubs making moves as well, man, that
especially the teams around us, right?
Yeah,
But you got to look at what they're marketing for. Like what are they able to promote and build upon, right? Like they're able to say LAFC, right? Like it's LA. They can do stuff. Columbus, they can show 28 years of history and trophies, right? Like there's history there. There's facilities that have been built and established. And like that's going to come. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. And so I think as we build, as we grow, as we mature as an organization, we're going to see those things happen more frequently. And we're going to see the signings that are multi-million-dollar DPs that other clubs don't sign. We're going to hit on them. I think that's the positive thing is like, yes, we're in it. We're in some of these bids. We were after Darwin Machis, period. We had that at the finish line.
That was him, right? But that was just the MLS ruling why we didn't get him.
It more involved, but yeah, but I'm saying like we had Machis, we've signed Fuchs, we have Ramsey that we were going after. Like these are not names that are just nobodies. These are coming from top leagues. You know, there are also people that are well respected within their circles. Even Jordi Alcivar, up and coming Ecuadorian. You've got Carolyn Vargas within Portuguese circles. That is a up and coming Portuguese player. Like Vinicius Melo, he's a 19-year-old who was with Internacional in Serie A in Brazil. Like,
yeah. And I'm also aware of two other players. I'm not going to say names, but I know would have definitely made this squad better, you know, in terms of the caliber of players that we were linked with. People give me crap on the internet for not saying the names, but at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my sources, because if I say this stuff and then my source gets blown out, then how am I going to bring you information in the future? So just an FYI, but to add to Vaughn's point, right? The only thing now, though, is Charlotte FC start getting some of these deals over the line. I understand circumstances happen, right? But, like, we got to start seeing some progression.
Yeah, I do think, and one final point, I mean, I think another big thing that is at this time when Charlotte expanded into the league, MLS is now like, I mean, this is the last two windows have been like profound MLS win, like almost like historically profound, like MLS windows.
Not normal,
right?
Not normal.
And so I think that's another piece, like probably when they were like first coming together as a front office, getting their plan set, and then to just see as they've become a team and the explosion of talent that is now, and the big, like the amount of big signings that are happening is and just they have to probably, I would imagine, some major planning and adjusting on the fly for some of that, because the last year has been, I mean, all the MLS pundits are talking about like just how insane it has been. Yeah. So I think another point to keep in mind.
Like the most interesting signing that's happened or that's gonna happen, in my opinion, so far is not even Bale. It's a Ricky Puig coming from Barcelona to LA Galaxy. That is a huge coup, in my opinion, especially the age of the player and jumping from Barcelona to LA Galaxy.
Yeah. So, 2 or 3 years ago, that's a Dortmund type signing, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. So, and then staying on players, you know, obviously Sunday night, we also saw Andre Shinyashiki's podcast, or we all got a chance to listen to it. And he talked very specifically about his contract dilemma here at Charlotte. So as things stands, Andre Shinyashiki, his deal is up at the end of this season, correct? Right? And he is currently trying to negotiate a better deal. He came out and spoke and said that the deal that Charlotte offered is not a deal he's going to take, right? And so what do we make of this Andre Shinyashiki contract dilemma? What do we see? Is this a player that we need to pay a certain amount? I kind of want your guys' thoughts on.
I mean, I think right off the bat, he's seeing like a lack of goals being produced, and he's seeing that he's one of the guys producing the goals, right? I think right off the bat, he's seeing an opportunity, just a personal opportunity in terms of like, hey, they don't have a proven goal scorer, and at this point, I might be the most proven goal scorer right now. And so I think he might be partially just trying to take advantage of that opportunity. And I don't really fault him for that. I mean, I think he's also been a fan favorite. He's also doing like a lot of PR stunting right now, as you can see, like on Twitter. He's constantly like, every day, like love the fans. He's doing like the Mar thing a little bit, like kind of just like a ton of fan appreciation right now on the daily. And so, I mean, I can't fault him for that. I mean, he's scoring. He's seeing an opportunity and he's trying to take advantage of it. And it makes complete sense. I mean,
plus he needs the money for his Tinder Gold account, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the man's scoring on and off the pitch for sure, right? I definitely think we should. I think we should play him more, man. I mean, I'm not opposed to benching Carroll and putting him in.
Let me ask you guys this before I give my answer on this. What is Andre Shinyashiki's, and I'll ask everybody in the comments as well, what is his best position up front? Is he better as a winger? Is he better at the 9 as the second striker? What qualities does Andre Shinyashiki have where we can maximize him and his goal-scoring opportunities in that front 3 or however we play?
I think he's best as a winger, period. I think personally, I prefer him on the left as a left winger. I think he's more dangerous on that side in our system. I mean, the thing is, he's way outperforming his career metrics. And some of that was because of how he's being utilized in Colorado. Some of it was, being played out of position. He spoke to it and saying that, they weren't utilizing him and playing to his strengths. But he's got 5 goals in 11 games, 593 minutes. That's 1 goal every 118 minutes. That's a 25 goal pace. I'm sorry, but Andre is not a 25 goal scorer in MLS. He has not proven that over his career. He has 27% of his career goals in the 13 games he's been with us. So that's way outperforming your career numbers. So it's a really sticky situation. The reason I think he's losing minutes right now is also related to the trade that we acquired him in. There was a baseline number. It's $225,000 in allocation money. And there's an additional $175,000 that is incentive based. That's based off of minutes played, goals scored, things we don't know. Could even be that he's re-signed. And so I think that's part of what's at play right now. Is this is probably one of the reasons that allocation money is not really working out right for the league, is the team is disincentivized to play Andre right now. If they're unsure whether or not they want to re-sign him, or even if they do want to re-sign him, let's say they want to re-sign Andre and they're considering themselves tight on the budget for what they want to do, they are going to burn $175,000 additional dollars of allocation money that could go towards the roster next season. They may need that 175 to hold on to Andre. So they may literally be incentivized now to not play him, wait for his numbers and minutes to stay low, then re-sign him if they can, keeping his numbers low. And then there's an extra $175,000 in their pocket to be able to do other things with the roster or to pay Andre.
But that's very hard to, I feel like that's a very hard pill to swallow because this guy's producing for you. I mean, he's scoring, right? That's the thing that we've lacked the most.
But that's what they may be having to decide, right? They can say, screw it. We're going to burn that $175,000. But if they are unable to sign Andre, what happens? We're going to go all out. We're going to spend all of these minutes on Andre. We're going to risk it. We're going to say that that's going to be enough to get us into the playoffs. And then we're going to have to pay $175,000 to Colorado. And that's going to affect $175,000 next season for a player we can't retain. That's what's going to happen. That's the danger.
Yeah, it's a good point too. To me, also, it comes down to how much is Andre asking as well. Yeah. It's 2 questions. Is he an irreplaceable player, right? Right now, he's an important player, right? But is he an irreplaceable player depending on how much he's asking from the club?
Okay. And also you have to look at the other guys that we have to find minutes for on the roster. We have a DP winger in Juzviak. He will drop below that threshold next year, but you have a DP winger. You have a U22 winger in Kerwin Vargas. You have Yordi Reyna, who's under contract for another year, probably in the same $800,000 plus range. And you also have other additions that we're going to be trying to make. Could be in the offseason, could be in this window still, could be in, who you want to draft. There's tons of things that could happen and be in play here. So you got to find minutes and also balance your budget across positions. I think that's what's going to hurt Andre here.
Anything you want to add to that, Lee or Brian?
I'm just saying it, and a lot of people are saying it in the comments too. Like the MLS rules, when it comes to financials, are whack. Like the league's growing, and it sort of hinders the league at this, with all this GAM and talk, right? Like you said, right? If Andre comes out and shows up, and then we have to give up 175 grand, that affects the team next season. It just, I don't know. Some of this stuff needs to, at some point, kind of change for the better, I think. But that's a whole nother subject.
But to me, it's worth burning if the guy's producing at the level he is right now. The only thing I question is I want to see Andre for a whole season, not just 11 games. You know what I'm saying? Because if you also look at, say we had signed Yordi Reyna in like the last 2 months, right? Or last 3 months, we would think like, bro, this guy is gonna be the best player we have, right? But the reality is, if you look at it through the scope of the whole season, it's taken him some time to be where he's at right now. And we don't know how consistent Yordi's going to be in the long run. So,
well, I mean, to Andre's defense, though, I mean, when he was playing and he was playing consistently, he was producing, right? I mean, and then obviously we got Carroll and everybody back, and then we had to kind of just sometimes I feel like we get hung up on the titles of like the DPs. Like, if they're not producing, then I'd say bench them.
No, but I think it's also long term. Like the thing is, you have these guys under contract, right? Like that's part of the hindrance here. Is like Vargas is going to be with us through 2024, 2025. Period. Like,
right.
And you've got to play him if you want to move him. Most likely, you've got to play him to create value for him on the global transfer market.
Right.
Right. So
yeah,
that's the balance that they've got to do.
I mean, we got another year or two to play him, right? I'm just saying. I don't know. I mean, to me, as a fan at least, right, I want the guy that's in there producing, scoring, and can get us into the playoffs, right? And if that's Andre, then put him in there, damn it. I don't want to worry about 175,000 a game. I mean,
but I think that's what they're doing. They're playing him for 15 to 20 minutes at the end of games, and he's nabbing goals as a super sub. That may just end up being what Shinyashiki's role is.
And I don't necessarily mind that. And so, like, because I mean, so I kind of defer from Vaughn, and I don't think, and Andre has said this, like he considers himself more of a second striker. And I really feel like in a lot of his sub appearances, that's more the role he's been playing. And I really feel like he's excelled there, like being a little bit more centrally, just because, I mean, he's putting himself in situations and giving himself opportunities to score. And I don't necessarily mind him being in a position where, at least from what he said, is more comfortable to him for less time than having him be in a position where might not be what he considers his first position for 60 or 70 minutes. Cause then you're just putting him in a situation where he's going to be less comfortable, less natural. Not saying that he can't do it. And I think cutting in on his right foot from the left, he can excel at it. But we also have Yordi Reyna who can do that, who can also pass really well. Right. And so it's just more like for the team, it's better to have Yordi out there because we have both the passing options, which we were lacking the last time he started at the wing. We had him and Camille, and neither of them could deliver a ball in, and that was against Austin, right? And then we switch it to Yordi, and all of a sudden we get some balls into the box, and they're actually doing something with them.
It's just sad, though, that we hinder the opportunity to win games, apparently, right, because of a contract that may or may not happen, and the GAM that may or may not get taken away. To me, that is just ludicrous, right? I mean,
and I could be wrong on that. I could be totally wrong on that, but I don't think I am.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense in my opinion. But at the same time, it's just frustrating to know as a fan, like, hey, we got this guy that come on, probably score, right? But we're not going to play him simply for the fact that we don't want to get hurt next season.
That's true, but I also think, in my opinion,
that's stupid.
My Andre Shinyashiki, in my opinion, is not like always a like, all right, this guy has to start no matter what kind of player, right? You know, like at least from what I've seen, you know, Like maybe is and my other question
Is Carroll that guy though? Is Carroll that guy that has to start?
no, he's not either. Not from what he's shown.
Right,
You
but
know,
we're starting him, right?
yeah, fair point. Fair point. Um, but like which comes to my next point, is this Andre's optimal level? And have we seen everybody in our front lines optimal level? And where do we stack Andre Shinyashiki there, right? Right now, we're seeing an informed Andre, right?
I
But
think Andre's leverage, I guess, is that he's used to the MLS, right? Versus somebody like Carroll or somebody
and
like
he's
that.
producing, right? Which is the number one thing that you would want, a player that's producing.
Right. And I guess what I'm just saying is like I could see Carroll coming on strong next year, but like right now, I mean, it's always been right. Whatever player's performing is the one that sort of starts, right? And I don't think Carroll is a player that has to start.
I mean, I think until the Miami game, I would have told you that I would prefer to have retained Shinyashiki, give him a contract in the $600,000 to $800,000 range, and Reyna, I wish he was offloading off the roster. Like until he was putting goals. No, but I'm saying like until that there were goals pouring in, and until Reyna's now hit this stretch of form, like I was singing another tune. You know what I mean? But now that we have other guys that can step in, and some of that's also you have competition in the roster. You have guys that are pushing themselves because they know that they've got to earn those minutes, and that's what the other challenge. Like I'm sure Shinyashiki is looking across the room at Yordi Reyna's contract and is like, I'm outperforming the numbers right there, and I'm in my prime.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for him, I just don't know that those dollars are going to be there for Shinyashiki in Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We haven't scored in 1.5 games, man, right? We've been outscored 7-2 in the games that we played, minus the 60 minutes this weekend. Somebody's got to score, otherwise we're never going to make the fucking playoffs.
Fair point. Awesome. Very interesting topic. I mean, time is flying today, so I want to get into the Charlotte FC versus DC United game. I missed the dot on there. My bad, guys. A bottom of the league DC United who's had some turmoil themselves. I mean, they let Losada go. They've got Wayne Rooney now coaching them, which people say there's potential there in the coach. I mean, sure there is, right? But at this point in time, how things stand, DC United is the worst team in the East based off numbers. I know things can change really quickly. And they just came out of probably the most a very MLS win, right? Where like they're losing 1-0 at minute 90 and they end up winning this game 2-1. What can we expect from DC? Is this a must-win game for Charlotte FC if 100%. They win the playoffs?
100% it's a must-win.
Yeah. I mean, if they lose, they're within 2 of 14th. They're within 2 points of 14th, right? Like, I mean, because then DC jumps to just 2 points behind them. I mean, yeah, it's absolute. I mean, if they can't win this, I mean,
if we don't DC, we're done.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
it's massive.
Yeah,
it is. It's a massive game, especially since now. I mean, technically, we have a game in hand, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we just saw what happened with the game. The other teams had a game in hand, and we got like a perfect. We had like honestly a perfect week run out.
So it's definitely a must-win in my opinion for DC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Our margins for error are super thin.
Yeah, and I don't think Rooney being the manager really makes that much of a difference to me in DC, at least, right? I mean, I don't rate him as a manager, and I don't think he's gonna. There's not gonna be a Rooney effect, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, he did get them a win in their first game, so I mean, I wouldn't like completely write it off as like. I mean, I hope the team takes this extremely seriously and comes out really firing and ready to just like press high and really come at them aggressively. Because they should. This DC's defense looked super leaky. I mean, Orlando should have put that game away in the first half and not given them a chance in the second half, which they didn't because Pato's finishing it just looks really off right now. But I would keep in mind they have had a few new signings that look to be probably key components of the team. Miguel Berry, new striker, he started last game. Ravel Morrison, Rooney brought him in from Derby. He played sort of like out in the flanks and the wing, but then they moved him into the middle as more of a creating option in the center in the second half, and that seemed to actually work really well for them. So I think that might be something to keep an eye on, especially if Bender starts again. I wonder if he might do some more of that like man-to-man coverage. I was actually wondering if maybe part of that is to just give Bender a little bit simpler defensive responsibility. That was kind of my thoughts on why Bender was man marking like that, just because maybe it just simplifies the game a little bit for him. But and then Martin Rodriguez was another new guy they brought in who came in right at the half and kind of changed things for them a little bit.
Well, and the guy I'd be mentioning also is Taxi Fontas.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the big one, the guy that is like MVP level play for them. He's been their biggest addition that we did not see in the season opener. To me, he's the most important player on the pitch for them that we've got to isolate. We've got to limit his chances in and around the box, period. Like limit the amount of times Taxi Fontas can get even a half look at goal. If we're successful in doing that, I think we got a really good shot. Because like you said, they're pretty gappy and there's goals to be had. And also, we didn't show it against Toronto. Is one of the things that was kind of bummer for me was like, this is a new coach trying to implement new things. And teams don't always click right away on that. Toronto was clicking against us in everything that they were doing on the training pitch. So that's going to be what I'm going to be looking for in this DC game is how much we can disrupt their patterns of play and how much we can just take advantage of that, new coach, new system, new people. And hopefully that also means unestablished connections and that we can take advantage of that.
Well, we're a completely different team at home too, though, man. So,
yeah.
I'm not worried about our back line. I'm just worried about who's going to score for us.
Exactly. I mean, I could definitely see us pull a Orlando. I mean, you talked about them missing. How many sitters have we seen our team miss this season? I can think of at least 4, right? So
yeah, more than we want to count.
100%. So, and you know what? Like, DC didn't start my boy Andy Nahar. So, Charlotte, if you're out there listening to this, man, be a great coup for us. So put some money down and bring my boy back. We could play him at right back, right as a wing back. So shameless plug because my goal is to have a Honduran here in Charlotte. So eventually we'll have somebody.
We got you, man. That's all that matters.
I don't play though. Listen, I can play left water boy, but that's I think they have somebody already in that position.
And VAR referee, man, and VAR referee.
For real.
That works. See what's up.
Yeah. And I guess we can touch slightly on the Chicago game as well, another team that has been very inconsistent this season. So these next 2 games are going to be very crucial for us. I mean, this has to be a 6-point window for us, in my opinion, especially because we're at home.
Yep. We will know a lot about what to expect the rest of the year by 10 o'clock Saturday night.
For real. Unless there's a rain delay, it might be 12.
Well, currently there is nothing to worry about, at least for tomorrow. So we're clear for tomorrow, said the weatherman.
Nice. Awesome. All right. And then I guess we'll end the show with a couple of score prediction, guys. We'll focus just specifically on DC United, right? And I want to hear from everybody in the comments section as well. I'll start off with you, Mr. Lee from CL.
3-1 Charlotte.
3-1 Charlotte.
Yep. Who
scores for you?
Mello, Armour, and Kalina.
Imagine if like it's like last minute Kalina goes up and like he gets
scores
the
header.
Yeah. While they're up 2-1.
Yeah. No, I think we're gonna win, man. I think we're gonna open up the account, but my fear is we're gonna go away from Charlotte and dry up again.
Brian,
I think a 1-0 win. I think I'm really still concerned about our form the last couple of weeks. I think we pull it out, but the last time I really was like like, oh, this is a big time opportunity to win and show out and really perform. And it was against Inter Miami when they came, and it was like a really nervy kind of moment. It was like 60 minutes, 0-0, and Shinyashiki came in his first appearance to get that 1-0 win. And I feel like it might be a little bit of the same just in terms of like how badly we need this win. And I think that might kind of like the players might feel that a bit. It might take them a minute to get going. Luckily, D.C United has not been great outside of Taxi. And so I think we do pull out that 1-0 win, but I think it's going to be a little bit nervy at times.
Nice. Vaughn?
I'm inspired by some of the high-scoring affairs that have been going on. I think both of these teams have proven to be leaky at times.
Yeah,
and I'm going 4-3 us.
Nice.
I definitely want to see a lot of goals, but with us winning at the end as well.
We just try to take 7-0, right? And just do a Philly or something.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be incredible.
for real.
The boys got some fresh legs too, though, man. Since we didn't really get to play this week, right? So they should be roaring, ready to go.
100%. I definitely see a high-scoring game too, like Vaughn said. Instead of 4-3, though, I'm gonna go 4-2 Charlotte, and hopefully we get some goals. Hopefully Swiderski gets a goal. You know, hopefully Shinyashiki continues to add to his form, and we just need, at the end of the day, we just need to win.
Yeah,
we would desperately need those 3 points if we want to stay within those playoff spots, you know. And so that's to me what keeps the season exciting, right? Because if we lose, like, it's gonna be like, oh damn, like, you know, you start losing hope. Right now, I still have a lot of hope, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. With that, Lee, where can we find you at, my man?
All the socials at COTFC Fan TV. No live show tomorrow since we're having a game, so we'll pick up on Thursday. Find us outside the Lowe's gate tomorrow after the game. Come tell us what you thought so we can put you on record as an interview. And then, I guess we'll see you out there Saturday too.
Nice. Vaughn, my man, where can we find you at?
At VI Pullman, right there. That's the one. Yep.
Nailed it. Right. Yeah, man. I'm always like having to use the shit, man. Again. Anyways, go ahead.
And Mr. Dortmund over here, Brian.
Yeah, y'all can find me at BA Maurer Media on Twitter. Also, you can find all my articles and work on topbit90.com. And whenever Charlotte FC get absolutely thrashed, Jorge usually drops out, and then you'll find me on Fan TV.
What we want to say though is, Brian, man, you know, you're our first choice, and we just asked Top Bin to fill in when you can't be available, buddy. And so, and I also wanted to call out some of these comments in here about Spurs and their trophy cabinet real quick, right? I don't think I didn't notice. We actually won a trophy this preseason, so yeah.
Whoa!
We're still trying to pay the guy to engrave it, so it'll be there soon. We'll have one new shiny cabinet, and you'll never
Participation trophy.
That's right. The Arsenal fan, right?
Dang. Brian's coming with the jokes now, man.
I know, man. It's getting too comfortable up there.
The bronze orange slice right back here. Yeah.
Nice. With that, we end the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Be on the lookout the next 48 hours. Charlotte FC. Woo-woo!